Hello and welcome to the second episode on my YouTube channel. Today I was gonna explain a little bit about the differences in the Honda aircraft models. Actually, there's only been one model, and that's the HA420. However, Honda, only 2 years after releasing the first model of airplane, we can also call it Legacy, it has serial numbers 12 until and within 125. That's the legacy model. From 126 and upwards, it's the newer, or you could call it an improved version of the Hondajet. It's called the Elite. So our aircraft is serial number 99, so that's a legacy model. It was by purpose to buy that particular model, and I will come back to the details of why we chose that approach as opposed to going for the newer or the improved Elite version. So this is actually easiest done again at the computer, so I suggest that we sit down and walk through it like we did the other day with the cockpit interior and layout, basics of the aircraft as well. So this PDF file was one that we got from the sales guy, or the sales woman it actually was, where we purchased our aircraft. We purchased it in Rhineland Air Service in Germany, and this is a model comparison between the original legacy HA420 and the Elite, as I mentioned before. So as you see in the beginning here, there's a big difference in the range, approximately 200 nautical miles. This is NBAA IFR, including 100 nautical miles reserve. It is not the complete true picture of the range of the aircraft. In general, they say you have to deduct 10, 20, maybe even 30% off of this number to have the real range. So really to think of when you're looking into buying an airplane, you need to consider your missions, and you need to consider what ranges you would need to accomplish those missions. These numbers are indicative only, and they are based on somewhat not completely true and right conditions. But however, I'm going to go back to that. However, it's not completely also untrue. You can get a lot of performance out of this airplane. So the legacy model has a range of 1,223 nautical miles, whereas the Elite has the capability in a range of 1,437 nautical miles. That is achieved by some upgrades. I'll get back to those. The maximum takeoff weight is actually also upgraded from 10,600 pounds until 10,700 pounds. That is an upgrade of the capability of the aircraft, so it's I guess they recertified it for the new maximum takeoff weight, but it's not because they changed anything in the structure of the aircraft. It was just recertified to carry additional 100 pounds. So the useful load of the standard aircraft, that's with standard instrumentation and avionics, is for the legacy model 3401 pounds, whereas for the Elite it's 3627. So 100 of the pounds will come from the increased maximum takeoff weight. The last 127 pounds actually comes from slimming down the aircraft, primarily on the insulation side, on the noise insulation side. I'll get back to that as well. Fuel capacity has been upped as well, with about 100 pounds of fuel. That has been done by adding a third center tank. I believe it's made out of aluminum and placed under the bladder tank in just aft of the pressure bulkhead and before the luggage compartment, the aft luggage compartment. That actually gives some of the range. So 100 pounds of fuel is actually a lot when you're cruising along long range cruise at flight level 430. So that is some of the additional range. The takeoff distance has also been improved from 3924 and until 3491. So they cut off approximately 500 feet in the takeoff distance, and that is really, really helpful when you operate into smaller airports all over the world. So that's really a nice upgrade. the upgrades we'll come back to. So the upgrades consist of some, yeah, you can say it's nice to have. So interior upgrades, they added two-tone seat options, carpet options. They made a galley as well. So the operators who want to use this aircraft for taxi flight will have better options and better services for their passengers. Then, because the galley is actually placed where the side-facing seat is placed in the legacy model, if you choose that option, but they take out the side-facing seat, so they added in a belted lavatory. So it gives the same passenger capacity, but I won't imagine anybody feeling comfortable sitting in the lavatory for a flight maybe 4 hours long. So basically, in my opinion, it's not really worth it. Then they have the Bon Jovial audio package, which is a sound system that works with no speakers. So basically what it is, it's a magnet that makes the cabin vibrate, and you can have sound in there. So if you subscribe to satellite radio and stuff like that, you can play it for your passengers. They can control it in the app as well, and play some music in there. I heard from a guy that I went to flight safety with that it's actually very efficient, and sometimes they even needed to tell the passengers to lower the volume so they could actually hear the air traffic control in the headset in the cockpit. Then they added USB connectors in the cockpit and the cabin. That's also a really nice feature because all devices today you charge via USB. In the legacy model, you would still have the 110 volt outlet both in the cabin and the cockpit as well, if you chose that option, which most aircraft, I believe, they have. On the avionics side, they added a graphical weight and balance calculator so that you can actually calculate everything before you go. You put in passengers, you put in cargo, you put in your fuel, you put in everything, and then it tells you whether or not you're within the envelope. It's a really nice feature as well. However, when operating under NCC, as we do in Europe, it's not really needed because you need to do your mass and balance for takeoff, and you need to document it. So this is actually a little bit, as I see it, operating under European rules is a waste of time. You cannot skip this part. If you do try to skip this part, then the avionics will not be ready for takeoff. So you need to do it. Either you did it on paper before you even went to the airport, or you skip that part. You need to do it in the airplane anyway. Takeoff and landing distance management toll data has been added into the avionics. That's a little bit truth with modifications, because actually it came with a software upgrade. I believe it was 71.42 software upgrade, which you can actually also implement on the legacy model without any upgrades, further upgrades, just a software update. So performance management has also been added in here, which is not an option on the legacy model. Angle of attack indicator has been added as well on the primary flight displays. And then very nice feature, I think, at least if you are operating single pilot as we are most of the time, it's autopilot coupled go around with underspeed protection. So what it does is that if you perform a go around, you hit the go around button and you just give full power, and then the FMS will automatically switch into the go around mode, find flight plan in there because it already has the missed approach loaded in there. Switch to that, it will follow it, it will set the pitch up, and it will climb right out of there, and the autopilot will not disengage. It also added availability for or support for the Flightstream 510. That's also a little bit truth with modification, because you can get that in the legacy model as well with software update 71.42. IFR and VFR charts, I believe it's also standard in the legacy model. So here's some range map for the Hondajet Legacy and the Elite. As with departure from Geneva, it's actually those 200 miles will come in handy somehow. So that's the standard. That's the differences between the models. So what made the real differences here? So there is some differences on the layout of the aircraft, of the aerodynamic layout. So first of all, the vortex generators, small triangles that were situated on the winglets on the legacy model, are taken away from the Elite. That reduces drag. I guess it was not really needed, but it's really nice that they took it away because it also doesn't look that good when you're considering the ramp appeal of the aircraft. Then they removed a wing fence, on the wings as well, and they cleaned up a lot of things on the wings as well. There's some vortex generators gone. There's some they were primarily below the wing, and they cleaned up also on top of the wing. So that's really nice. On the tail section, they also removed vortex generators below the horizontal stabilizer, and they extended the horizontal stabilizer by approximately 2 inches on both sides. So that is actually what gives the reduced takeoff distance, because you have more tail authority on your takeoff. So when you fly the Elite as compared to the legacy model, you can feel the legacy model has somewhat a tendency of sticking to the runway. So when you're rotating, you're going out the runway and you hit rotation speed and you start to pull back, it feels like nothing is happening, and you will have a tendency to pull back too much. So then it just flies too steep away from the runway. So the takeoff procedure for the legacy model would be just to pull back as much as you think, as much as you feel is necessary, and hold that position, because eventually it will take off, but it seems like it's the runway. That is improved a lot in the Elite model. Some improvements has also been done on the engine inlets. They have been perforated now, and that is creating a lot of noise reduction. So primarily on takeoff and up till about, I think it's flight level 100, they say, the noise is reduced significantly from the engines when you're sitting in the cabin. I've not really experienced that because I don't usually sit in the cabin, but they say it's significant. When they reduced the noise from the engines, they also did save some weight, because actually they were able to reduce the insulation in the cabin for noise protection as well. So that's actually also what ups up the useful load by those 126 pounds it is. So they removed a lot of insulation from the aircraft. So they basically slimmed down the aircraft. And that's really nice because you can put in more passengers, more fuel, more load, and you can reach further that way. So it's really a nice upgrade. However, the Elite model also comes with an extended price tag, so you should really consider if you do need the extra range and you do need the extra capacity that the Elite actually gives you, because basically it is the same aircraft. On the avionics side, they also added some better screens, and they also added faster processors and stuff like that in the screen, so you can see the screens of PFDs, and the MFDs are actually performing a lot better, and they give you a lot better resolution, and they give you a lot better backlighting, especially when operating in high sun conditions. So that's also worth to consider when you buy the airplane. So this is basically the two models that Honda has produced. However, Honda was actually not that stupid. So they figured out, okay, all the clients that bought the legacy model might want to go for Elite. And they also, because there was only 2 years in between the legacy model was released for the market and the Elite model was put into production. So the people who bought the legacy model might feel bad that they bought an older product somehow that was upgraded just 2 years after the release of the product. So what they did was they offered an APMG package. So the APMG package you can retrofit to the legacy model, and you can achieve almost the same as the Elite model, except of course from the better interior and stuff like that. As I mentioned before, the Honda Aircraft Company actually does provide an upgrade package from the legacy towards the Elite model. So they do have some of the features that you could actually retrofit into the Hondajet legacy, and they call it APMG. I don't remember what it's actually short of, but it's some kind of in between the legacy and the APMG. So what they do actually offer is 100 pounds of extra takeoff mass, which ups up the takeoff mass from 10,600 to 10,700 pounds. They do also offer the shorter takeoff performance. So that means that they will be changing the characteristics of the horizontal stabilizer so that you save the approximately 500 feet and in takeoff distance, and that will open a lot of airports for you. They also, in the APMG upgrade kit, gives you the upgrade of the avionics. They do not offer the faster processors in the avionics suite, and they also do not offer the extra backlight, which is especially handy in very bright conditions. They do offer the aerodynamic improvements, and that's actually a lot of what the kit does. So they do take away these vortex generators on the winglets. They do take away the wing fence. They do take away the vortex generators on the wings or below the wings. And they do also take away the vortex generators on the horizontal stabilizer. They do also extend the stabilizer of the approximately 2 inches on both sides. That gives the extra tail authority to make it not feel so sticky to the runway anymore as the legacy tended to be. These are actually quite good improvements. So the notable APMG features, as stated here in the PDF, is reduced takeoff field length by approximately 500 feet. They do offer the Flightstream 510 compatibility, which is actually it's still not really true because you could get that in legacy as well with the latest software upgrades. They also have an enhanced electronic checklist. That's not really true because they only have the normal checklist on the APMG model as well. You cannot find emergency checklists either for CAS or non-CAS messages, or also the abnormal non-CAS messages. They have the integrated toll calculator, which is also available for the legacy model. So again, true but not really true. The angle of indicator actually comes on the PFD as well. It's optional, so you can choose if you only want it below, I think it's 0.5 degrees, and then it comes on automatically, or if you want it on always, or you just want it on whenever you turn it on. So that's on the soft keys on the PFD. They do also offer plain language TAF support, so that's only really applicable if you have satellite weather coming into your avionics suite. If you do not have that, of course, it's not really necessary with the plain language TAF and meta support, so you get TAFs and metas in there, and it can basically just decode them for you. But yeah, when you've been flying for quite a number of years, it doesn't really matter. For me, it doesn't really matter. Altitude constraint on map, yeah, that could be good, but when you fly along and you cruise a lot and you are on cruise a lot, I won't really see that it matters. The flight hours display on the CDUs, however, is very handy, especially when you want to keep your logbook up to date, and of course we want to do that. So it's not based on your watch anymore, but actually after the flight has stopped and after you shut down the engines, you can still read off the exact number of hours you've been flying and the exact number of operations you've been doing. Vertical profile flight based on VSD, yeah, it does that, and that's really handy as well. And it has a number of new options on the MFD data fields as well. I'm not really aware of what the new options are because I never flew the legacy model really well. So as for what was actually upgraded with the APMG package is primarily the aerodynamic features, again, the vortex generators, and the engine inlets are not modified, so you will not experience any noise reduction in the cabin with the APMG upgrade, unfortunately. That also means that you will not be feeling that the aircraft has actually slimmed down on the weight, so you will be missing 126 pounds roughly from the APMG to the Elite model. So still the APMG is a little bit heavier than the Elite model. You will also not have the increased fuel capacity. However, the range is increased with approximately 100 miles, and that's really a bit different. With no extra fuel consumption, you can still fly approximately 100 miles extra on the same gasoline you have, or the same fuel you have in the tanks. So that's really a neat feature. So the cost of the APMG upgrade kit is $250,000 to $300,000, and of course, again, it depends on your mission. If you need the upgrade or you don't need the upgrade. For me, or for us, it was really in the deal, so we got it upgraded already when we took delivery of the aircraft. And yeah, I have to say that I'm really happy about the upgrade because it does give me extra cruise performance, especially on long range cruise. So the longest flight we have ever performed in our aircraft was from Puerto Princesa in the Philippines to Bangkok. And unfortunately, they are not really good in giving you climb outs in the Philippines. For some reason, they think that aircraft don't want to fly above 260, maybe 330 or something like that. But actually, we wanted to go to 430 immediately, and it took quite a lot of communications to ATC to get that. So we got pretty much a very steep climb out of Puerto Princesa. But finally, we got 430. And along up there, we leaned back to cruise. Again, we just matched the numbers in the books, and I believe it was somewhere around 580 pounds total fuel consumptions per hour, which is not a lot. And the cruise performance was between 10 and 20 knots better than the books. So flying in Asia, it's a lot warmer than it is flying in Europe or flying in the US. But actually, when you climb through, say, around 360, it becomes ISO conditions anyway. So we were very close to ISO conditions these performance, and we still got book numbers and got actually a lot extra. So the longest flight we have had was, I'm going to show it to you here. This is actually from the extra page that has been added to the CDUs, the flight hours display. It's the statistics display that you can find in the CDUs, and that's 1,240 miles. Of course, it took 3 hours and 38 minutes to do that or perform that flight. But we also have to keep in mind that the standard approach in standard arrival in Bangkok was 160 miles low altitude flight and slow flight, and that burns a lot of fuel. So I would imagine that if we have got the right climb profile and we have found a better airport with not a long standard arrival like that, and they were not really adhering to the standard arrival, we could easily get 100 miles extra, maybe even 150 miles extra on the tank than we actually did. So considering that, I'm actually happy with the performance of the aircraft after the APMG upgrade. So basically, the decision we took at least was to get the legacy model and just upgrade it with APMG because we don't really need the sound system in the back, and we don't really need the galley and two-tone letter composition and stuff like that. The only thing we would actually have wanted was increased fuel capacity, which the APMG does not have, but it's only 100 pounds. So I would say definitely a good bargain to pick up a cheaper legacy model and just spend the 250 or 300,000 to upgrade afterwards.
So this was all for today's video, and next one will probably be on avionics updating and on an aircraft run-up. As you know, the world has been in lockdown, and here in the Philippines, where our Hondajet is based, it's been in lockdown for the last 2 months. So we are not really operating that much anymore, unfortunately. But it still needs updates and still needs the engines to run once in a while to make sure that all the systems don't break down. Because the worst thing that could happen to our airplane is that we have AOG, aircraft on ground, which could be hard to solve in this country, and especially with the current political situation. So stay tuned, and I hope you will follow us again on the next video. Thank you.